He's the deal lawyer, and he's the certified coach. Find out what happens when these two professionals talk about universal questions and topics that require insightful answers. This week, the guys meet to talk about. This episode starts now.
All right. Well, Steve, here we are again. Can you believe how fast Wednesdays roll right back around?
It's remarkable, to say the least.
So far, look at what we've kind of shared with folks. We've shared with folks how to negotiate, and we talked about how to get unstuck. But now we're actually going to talk about how to actually be very, very sticky in terms of perseverance. So we talked about how to get unstuck. Now we're going to go back to the whole adhesive theme. We're talking about what's the best kind of stickiness, and the best kind of stickiness that you can have is perseverance. What do you think about that?
I completely agree with that. And to my Facebook Live family in the Boston Negotiator School, this is PJ Dunn over here. I like to call him the Dr. Phil of Dallas. And I am so happy he's sharing his wisdom with us here. And we've been doing this together in a collaborative effort here. It's been awesome. But to answer your question, perseverance is maybe one of the strongest and most important sort of character traits, and it's sort of a character trait that one must have in order to achieve your life mission and goals.
I absolutely agree, and I think that you hear a lot of times on bumper stickers or coffee mugs, it's about passion, and passion I think gets you started.
Yeah. But
it's actually the perseverance that's going to get you through the hard times, because they're definitely coming. It's not an if, it's a when. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, there's no doubt about it. At some point, when you are on your mission, on your journey, I like to call it a journey, you are in fact going to encounter obstacles, no doubt. It is absolutely part of the whole deal.
Absolutely. And so it really, and it's interesting because our society has kind of gotten us to a place of comfort. We love comfort. We do everything for comfort. We have a remote control because it's comfortable not to get up and have to go change the channels. Just everything's microwave society in that sense, which actually is the antithesis of perseverance, because perseverance isn't looking for instant gratification.
It's not. It's not. It is absolutely not. And what perseverance is about is not instant gratification. It is achieving success despite the things that may arise on the road to getting to success. Absolutely. It's not instant gratification. It's not called perseverance. Perseverance implies that it's going to take time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so when you think of it, if we use just simplistic terms today about perseverance, and there's several ways to define it. I love the way you've already defined it, but just for those who just want something quick and an easy soundbite, perseverance is really just getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, knowing that the uncomfortable is coming.
Right.
So.
right. And along with that, I like to talk about one of my favorite authors on the subject of perseverance, Dr. Seuss. The Places We'll Go. And that book is an incredible testimony to perseverance and a must read, and I'll talk a little bit about it a little bit later. But yeah, I agree with you.
Absolutely. So if we stay true to our form, we talk about the components of whatever the topic is, and so I would say there's several components here. There's 4 components, I would say, initially in terms of perseverance, what it will bring out of you. So the first one, for everyone following along, would be the intentionality of it. Perseverance people aren't necessarily surprised by what's going on because it was intentional in their mindset to say, there's a reason why we're doing this, there's a reason why I'm driving for this goal, so therefore I'm going for it. So intentionality might be an example. We use the example of losing weight. Intentionality might be, I already throw everything out of the refrigerator and out of the pantry that I already know I'm not going to be able to eat because it's not good for me.
Yeah.
That's intentionality. Before you ever get into the gym, I get rid of the stuff already in my house.
That is incredibly intentional. For some, that's being real about it, and that's right. If you have your mind set on achieving some type of mission or goal, you need to understand why you were doing it, and you want it so bad that you were willing to give up and remove anything that will potentially decrease the likelihood of you achieving your goal.
That's exactly right, and that leads right into that second one, and that's that focus. When you see people with perseverance, they're focused. So, same example, now that this person has gotten up and gone to the gym, they threw out all the food, being intentional, they don't sit there on their phone at the gym. They're focused on each exercise, each curl, and the negative and the positive to it, the motion, the movement. It's just an extreme focus. In fact, they may ignore you because they got their music on and they're so focused on lifting those weights.
Now, sometimes some of us video ourselves in the gym, but in all honesty, PJ, you're exactly right. There is a tremendous amount of focus and intentionality into paying attention to what you are doing and making sure that you are on that path to success. And so focus is incredibly important.
That's right. You might hear it be called, I think we said it before in just normal language, we called it intentionality. We called it, what did we say? We said it was a one-track mind. Well, you just got a one-track mind about that. Well, when it comes to something good, it's actually good to have a one-track mind. And these perseverance folks are definitely there. So that third component is, while they're being intentional and while they're being focused, what's happening is that they're getting feedback in the process. But the perseverance person doesn't see the feedback as failure. They see it as more information to help them do the fourth thing, which is refinement. Because anything that you're doing and you're taking it on for the first time, you've got to refine what you're doing because you're going to get feedback, right? And with that feedback, it's telling you something. It's not telling you to quit. It's just telling you it doesn't work this way.
And speaking of feedback, Rakia, I see you on, and I want to stress as we're going through this that we want your feedback as well. And so we would love for you to chime in or give us any insight or experiences. We're paying attention to all of that, and so we're trying to make this as collaborative as possible.
Absolutely.
But on the point of refinement and feedback, sometimes we get completely sidetracked by maybe a small failure or a minor stumbling block. And how you should view that in that perspective, you talk about that a lot, PJ, is being able to assess what is going on, what is happening, and to make the certain type of modifications that may be necessary for you to continue on the journey to achieving your goal.
That's exactly right. So if we put it like in a formula standpoint, some of us love formulas. So it's the principle of the 3 Ps, right? So there's passion, the first P, and what that's about is getting you started. Passion just gets you that desire that says, I'll stand up and I'll be counted for this particular thing.
Right.
So you need the passion, but coupled with that, you also need the perseverance, again, pushing through all the obstacles despite what's being shown in front of you. And then the last P is that purpose. Like, why are you doing this? If you know what the meaning is for all this and what you're doing, then you'll push forward. So if you have the passion, then you have the perseverance, and then you have the purpose, you should be able to get success, which would be the result of those 3 things married together.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And one way I sort of look at it and package all of the sort of the perseverance is in my book I talk about this is sort of a 6-step process. The visualizing the goal, understanding your purpose, converting an abstract to concrete, developing a roadmap. You don't have to have it all spelled out.
Love that. Getting
on the journey, and then achieving the goal. And perseverance is when you are on the journey and you're going through the ups and downs, and then the 3 Ps play a part in there, as you mentioned. And so real important is to understand why you're doing it. Why do you want this so bad? Why is it so important? What does it mean to you? Because it's during there's periods we hit these roadblocks and stumbling blocks where you're going to have to go back to, why am I doing it? Why does this mean so much? Why is this so important?
That's
so
right.
That kind of pushes you through and allows you to meander or make the necessary changes.
Yeah, I don't think people are very aware how powerful the mind actually is. If you can visualize it, and I love what you said, and you take that visualization with some sort of purpose and meaning, and then of course that perseverance on top of it, it's amazing what people could do. You hear about World War II veterans or prisoners of war, POWs, who go through all kinds of torture, but they hang on and they don't die in that torture because they have this feeling, this hope that somebody's going to come. The planes are going to come. The infantry's going to come. Someone's going to come for me. So they stay alive long enough to be found. And that's been the subject of many movies.
Yeah. So now you're going to get me to go on to. I just was talking with a Vietnam veteran just a couple weeks ago, and amazing story. He 3 tours of duty in Vietnam, and what I didn't know is that the North Vietnamese and South Vietnamese, and they had places where they would relax and move away, go somewhere else. And when they went to those R&Rs, whatever you call it, everybody was together, and there was you couldn't attack this person or that person or like that. So you're literally relaxing with your enemies. Wow. And the reason why you have to do that and on your journey is that there are times where you do have to take a break and be able to reset and recalibrate the mind.
Yes.
Because if you don't do that, then you sort of lose focus. And so it's real important on the journey when you're coming to obstacles and everything. It's also to be able to take a break for a moment and maybe have some mindfulness and recalibrate because and revisualize, because visualization and being able to have that perspective will help you with all kinds of things. Hey, Randy, thank you for joining us.
Hey, Randy. Well, this is kind of neat, this modern technology, just watching people pop in. So, you guys, if y'all have any questions or something that you want us to clarify, certainly put it out there. I love what you're saying about that, too, Steve. That is incredible. And that is the fact, because if you're churning and churning and churning away and you think that that's the plan, just keep churning and churning away, if you don't stop for those breaks to give yourself a chance to reflect and think about, okay, it's not that bad, it's not that bad, I've gotten this far, if I've made it, you know what, I'll stop that and go this way. It's kind of like on that run, when you're running in that marathon, right? You're just telling yourself, okay, there's just 4 more miles left.
Yeah.
Your body's aching, your knees are killing you, your feet feeling like blisters, the chafing in your shoes, and those running socks, if they're too thin, there might be some chafing going on. The shoes are new, running shoes, maybe something like that. And your mind's processing all that, and you're going, I still have 4 more miles to go. And if you start thinking about how many more miles you have to go, you might start telling yourself, I don't know if I can make 4.
Yeah.
But instead, what happens is you start recalibrating. Go, look, how many miles I've already run.
That's right.
To get to the point where I've only got 4
That's
left.
right. That's right.
So maybe what I do is my stride changes just a little bit to make it a little bit more comfortable, even though I might have some chafing going on, so I can make it just 1 more.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, if I can make 1 more mile after that, the next thing you know, you're only 2 miles out, and you're only 1 mile out, and now you're talking about feet before you get to that finish line.
Yeah, and just to add to that, those moments when your feet are chafing, the blistering, the exhaustion from time to time. One way to reflect and look at those moments is part of the journey, and it's also part of your testimony. When you get to the point of reaching that result, and you've done this cycle over and over again, once you're on that journey, you realize, oh, I know this is a small setback, but the reason why this has happened is for recalibration, but also for me to be able to tell this story once I've achieved this goal and be able to help other people. And you can tell them the things that you went through and that they may go through to give them some scope.
Yes.
We talked about this before.
Yes.
If you're coaching someone and trying to tell them how to get to this result, what's important is to give somebody the scope. What is it going to take? How long is it going to take?
Right.
And once you've gone through that and achieve these goals, you're able to give that testimony and say, hey, I know you're almost there, and I know you're feeling exhausted and everything, but just around the corner there's a rest stop, and then just a few more yards where is the finish line. You're almost there.
Yeah. I love that. That's exactly right, because here's the thing. We learn more with failure than we do with success, actually.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you're successful at something, you might tell yourself, oh, well, I can take a short here, or I can take a shortcut there, because, I did it the last time fairly easily. I can do it again. So actually, success sometimes pushes you in the wrong direction, which is why it's hard for teams to keep going back to the Super Bowl, right, every year. It's a tough thing. And if you can win,
except you're LeBron.
Yes, right? Unless you're these guys, right? And it's interesting because it's when you're failing, what you're doing is you're learning more ways to say, okay, it doesn't work that way, it doesn't work this way, and it doesn't work that way. So instead, it must be, if A doesn't work, and door B doesn't work, and door C doesn't work, and D doesn't work, then there must be an E and an F and a G and H. It must be unlimited because there's so many doors and options and ways.
Yeah.
And so now you start thinking that way instead. So actually, failure actually is going to be a great precursor to who wins. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so I want to read this comment here, and maybe you can, PJ, add something to this here. It says, makes a good point, stopping to maintain focus. Some days it's better to stop than continue and produce an inferior result. Some days it's better to stop than continue and produce an inferior result.
I love that. That's exactly right. I'd rather put maximum effort into a simple idea than put little idea into a maximum effort that would basically not produce anything. So I would say, yes, it's exactly how you frame it, and you definitely have to keep your energy levels at a right place. You mentioned faith, and thanks for that. That was a great question, Randy, or comment for sure. You mentioned faith, and you talk about testimony.
Yes.
Without getting into a Sunday school lesson, we get that in James. He says, consider it a joy when you face trials, for it is the perfecting of your faith. Right? So speaking to that, what that speaks to is this. We talked about the 3 Ps. We talked about the components. How about the things that help you stay on track with your perseverance? And that comes down to, if we make it simpler, the 3 Fs, right? And it's going to come down to faith. What is it that you have it in?
Yeah.
You have faith in your ability. Do you have faith that you're in the right place that you should be doing? Do you have faith in your abilities and your skills? Do you have faith that there's a larger picture that you fit into somehow?
Yes,
right?
yes.
Then there's family. And family are the people who are most invested in you, usually when there's a healthy, good relationship, because you carry that name. There's a legacy that you're carrying with you in that name. So family's invested in you. So you'll get it from there, from those parts of the family. Not all family will do that. Sometimes you got the ones who will push you negatively, but see, we can even use that. And then that last F would be the friends. And the friends that you have are the people who naturally root for you, because they say, man, if Steve can do that, I feel like I can do it too. And it's not to say that Steve can't do it well. It's just that he's one of my friends and he won. So that makes me feel like I can win.
Yeah.
So you sit up a little taller. You persevere a little bit longer.
PJ, you're getting me to get all pumped up now here. I mean, like, I'm about to take on a new task here. Well, and so I want to talk about that last point there, kind of the friends who are watching and who are inspired by your testimony and your journey. We can sometimes overlook how important it is when we are on our journey to achieve a result, that there are people watching you, and your journey is so important, not only to you but to those closest to you, because I like to use this term, we are all tied together in a single garment of destiny. And that's a Martin Luther King quote, and some people who know me know I use that from time to time. But what that means is that whatever it is that you're doing or achieving, and you're able to achieve that result, or if someone's trying to stop you from doing it, it's a loss to the community of people around you, or it can be a benefit. And so we all have to be our best and our better selves. And so it's so important when you achieve this goal, someone very close to you who's connected to you is going to be inspired, and they're going to be their very best, and they're going to achieve that result. And so therefore you can't be selfish and quit. You have to persevere. You have to do it, because you're doing it not for yourself but for others around you.
That is so good, and that is the lesson. Because so in marketing, I had a career in marketing before I got into coaching, and that's one of the things that was the most successful marketing pieces to get people to view something or to get visibility, was to tell a story from a testimonial perspective.
Yeah.
So if you're selling advertisement, the best advertisement or the best commercials were always the ones that presented you with a testimony of somebody who went through some odds to get there. And in fact, when you watch movies, why do we watch the movie? Because we want to see the protagonist overcome the antagonist.
Yeah.
And then somehow, with the help of friends and other people and some knowledge that he gains along the way, end up beating that antagonist so that they win. Because in a way, we look at it and we go, that's me. So
Right.
It's so powerful. So we know testimonies or accounts are powerful. The Bible is filled with accounts.
Right.
Testimonies.
And stories and all of that. And so many reasons why I believe people are experts at perseverance is because it goes back to the visualization part of it. They understand that when they're engaging on a mission, that it is a story.
Yeah.
And those of us who have faith understand how the story ends. And so they understand that they're going to be victorious. And so that is something that when you begin your journey and you visualize, you have to be committed to the visualization that you are going to be victorious. And all the little things that happen in the interim throughout that is just part of the story that you get to tell, and how you also inspire others, because we all love a great and beautiful story. We all love it.
That's exactly right. And in fact, that's our best teaching tool we know. Any pedagogical tool you can think of, the best ones are the ones where people are actually kinetic. They're involved in the story. And then as they go through the situation, they get feedback. And as you, again, I hope I'm not repeating it too much, but it's true. The perseverance of perseverance is the fact that it's a persistent consistency. That persistency is drawn by the fact that I already know this is coming. I know it's happening. It's not a surprise, which is why I would tell anyone watching anywhere on any of these cameras here, if you want to know what the biggest enemy of perseverance is, it's going to be instant gratification. If it's too easy, you don't want it.
My pastor used to say, if it's easy, it's sleazy.
right? So you don't want that. In fact, we should cheer. When something gets hard, we shouldn't be the ones complaining, oh, it figures. Now I got to deal with traffic. Now I got to deal with this. Oh, I got a long email here. You're beating yourself down and taking some of that energy away from just saying, you know what, this is part of the deal. It just happens. Let's just go. Let's just get this done.
And sometimes it's hard sometimes to go through the daily beat downs when you're on a journey and you're just like, oh, here I go again, getting kicked in the rear end once again. And somehow you have to convince yourself, oh, but this is part of the process. I love this. Thank you. May I have another? But that is sort of the perspective you have to have in order to keep going, for sure.
And this whole thing that's great about perseverance is you don't get it by never experiencing it. The only way you can get perseverance is you have to experience tough times. You have to experience struggles. You have to experience failures in whatever it is that you're trying to do. You have to. Otherwise, you can't say, man, I really wished I was able to persevere better. I wish I had more grit. Well, the only way you can get that is by being in the middle of it.
Well, can PJ, now this is a little more touchy and everything, but can you give an example, and I might have to think of it too, where you persevered and you had to go through some things to achieve a result?
Absolutely. So for some, it might be career transition, right? So in my previous career, I was the legal account executive for the Dallas Business Journal, but I had to make that transition to, okay, now will people now see me not as just somebody who sells advertising and promotes special publications as it related to attorneys. Will they see me now as someone who can speak into their life as a coach, someone who helps people flourish? Will they make that connection? And I had people tell me, a gentleman sit me down, general manager, love him to death, or general partner of a firm. He said, PJ, I don't know that people are going to pay you to tell them how to run their business. Since you don't have PhD, you don't have these sort of things like that.
Right.
And he said, and I love you. Anything you need, you come to my firm, we'll come help you. We'll help you. We'll do whatever it is that you're doing, and we'll help you get out there. But I'm just going to tell you, it's not too many people. And let you come in and try to tell them how to run their business.
Wow.
So I had to try to say, okay, do I just quit now? As I'm just presenting at this point my idea of what I'm going to do once I leave my former job. I'm just trying to present to him and see who's on my side, who might be my support, right? My friends who might root for me. Well, he rooted for me for sure, and he did help me, but he gave me some truth that was pretty unsettling about how people were going to perceive me anyway. So I had to go into rooms and not be fearful that anybody that had a master's degree or PhD would just automatically see me as a phony or an imposter.
Oh, wow.
And not go forward, right? I had to see that, no, I belong here. Because what I have studied in behavioral science, I am a certified coach. I do belong there. And there's some experiences, 8 years of experiences now. And I didn't have it at that time, but what I have now, my experiences are equal too, because I've been in situations where I had to persevere and understand, how do I get this client to understand this?
Oh, see, I love that. Question, PJ, how did you overcome that negative reinforcement?
Oh gosh, that's such a great question. So whenever you have the negative thoughts come in, I believe it's Randy, you have to turn around and counter that negative with some positives. So it's interrogative self-talk. So I had to say, when have I ever won something? Well, I won the Scholastic Achievement Award in school for lasers and for science. I also won awards for art, some paintings that I've done, and then some of the awards that I won, I also won for sports activities. So I was a 17-year-old BMX champion, if you could believe that.
Oh, I used to skateboard myself, but I know that's bicycles, but awesome. Yeah.
So what I did was I had to go back to, well, what were you doing at the times that you won? Were you confident? Yeah, I was very confident when I stepped up. And when I did my report on lasers and it won the Scholastic Achievement Award for a school in Dallas, I went back to the wins, because those wins were indicative of who I am and what I've done. All I had to do now is tell myself, now how do I win here? Because I know how to win.
Are y'all listening to this? Because this is so good.
Yeah. And it wasn't easy. I won't say that it was easy, but that's why I had to go.
But so what you did, a couple things. What I'm hearing is you also kept a list, or a mental list, of the times where you were extremely successful.
Yes.
Yes. Because that is experience. It is evidence of your ability to achieve. And then also, I think you honed in on there's some certain elements that have to take place in order to achieve these great results, and you're just it's a platform or whatever, you're applying it in a different area. And that's sort of, it sounds like, what you're doing, what you said, and what you've done. And I want to tell you, I'm so glad you didn't listen to that clown tell you or whatever that you could, because PJ has helped me in the so I knew PJ, who I again will call the Dr. Phil of Dallas. I'll say this over and over again because this is how great this guy is. I remember meeting PJ in 2008 when you were at the Dallas Business Journal with other people and everything, and what you were doing then. And I've seen the transformation of where you are today and what you're doing today. And it is absolutely incredible. You're touching lives and helping people be their better selves, and it is absolutely remarkable. Absolutely remarkable.
Yeah. Well, and thank you for that. And I'll just say to anyone that's watching and listening, seriously, it's almost like now, whenever bad stuff happens, I don't like it, but I almost say, what else you got? Bring it. Because you know what? I expect it. I almost reject the instant gratification. I don't want the instant gratification of anything now. I want everything to come with some sort of a cost, because it'll let me know how much blood, sweat, and tears had to go into it to get it. And anything worth having, notice you put the blood, sweat, and tears in.
Right.
So for the person that's going to run that marathon for the first time, 26 miles,
right,
they have to get up and give up of their sleep to prepare to run. The person who's never run 26 miles to all of a sudden run 26 miles, you know what you have to do every day to get ready for something like that?
Yeah.
You have to sacrifice something somewhere. But the difference is, you know what your purpose is,
right,
for why you're willing to persevere through that, and then your passion will take over and make you show up.
And one thing to dovetail with that is also circumstances. So when we're on our when we're on the journey and we're utilizing all our perseverance skills, don't confuse a temporary circumstance with a end result. I recall, when I was on my path of trying to become a lawyer, I had like 3 jobs at one point, and this was so many years ago. I was a janitor, I was a ladies' shoe salesperson, and also I worked in a tax office. And at the time I was newly married and just had a baby, and people would come into the shoe store and they were like, "That's Al Bundy," and and I'm like, I reject this, but I will tell you, I knew at that moment, even when I was selling these shoes to these ladies, and it was the Naturalizer shoe store, and so it wasn't the fanciest shoes, but they were very comfortable shoes. But I learned so much from those ladies, just kind of having me do all these different things. But I knew it was just part of the story, and I knew that wasn't the end result. And I would laugh with them and everything, calling me Al Bundy and everything. And so I knew it was a temporary circumstance, and there were others who were on the sidelines, were like, I don't know what this guy's doing. Why would he quit this and go try this venture over here or do that and everything? And so you have to replay in your mind these successes that you've had over your past, whatever it may be, so that you can have that mindset of a warrior, of someone who's victorious and persevere through those moments.
That's exactly right, and I think that's what it is. So the thing is, and thanks, Randy. He said that was great. Glad you're doing it. Thank you, Randy. The truth is, there's greatness in all of us, because I believe in strengths-based psychology, which means that each and every one of us has innate gifts and talents and abilities inside of us, and when those talents are polished, they become strengths, right? So you've heard the term raw talent before. Well, that's, you can have talent, but if you don't take that talent and polish it and add skills and knowledge and practice to it, you're just a very talented person who may or may not necessarily succeed, right? So to succeed is going to take the perseverance to go along with the passion, and then of course the purpose. What's the meaning behind what we're trying to do today? That's when you see success, and that's really the way you should measure success.
And just to go back to something here, LeBron James, right? I'm just going to go to LeBron James. So I've been paying attention to the championship game here, and he's lost 2 games now. And the last game he came in a suit where there were short shorts or whatever it was, and people were laughing and everything. Forget all that. What you need to pay attention to tonight, and I don't know if he's going to win necessarily, but I bet he would, is the adjustments he makes. We lost game 1, and I will say we because I'm a fan. We lost game 2. I will guarantee you there will be adjustments. And by the way, Golden State's going to make adjustments as well. But these are champions, and these are people who are the epitome of perseverance. And even though there might be a minor setback here or a loss here, maybe a little embarrassment at some point or whatever, that does not in any way stop you from sitting back, reflecting, refining, recalibrating, getting that mindset together and everything, and then executing on day 3 or game 3.
That's right.
And so,
That's right. We saw the perfect, and that's a good example. I'll use another sports one, football, 2 years ago. What was happening to the Patriots, and I can't stand the Patriots, but what the Patriots were getting walloped by the Falcons.
Right.
In fact, Brady threw a pick 6 right before the half and ran all the way back. And here's this young upstart Falcons team that was putting up tons of points. We're beating this perennial, winner, powerhouse in the Patriots. And then look what happened in the second half. In the second half, Brady just said, well, you know what? Let's just start by just getting a touchdown. Let's see if we can get a touchdown.
Yeah.
Well, they got the touchdown. Then it was, well, if only our defense can just stop them from scoring again, then maybe we have another chance.
Yeah.
The defense, all of a sudden, when it couldn't in the first half, shut down that Falcons offense. So then they're like, okay, well, let's see if we can go ahead and score again. They did. Now all of a sudden they're tied. And then now it's for the win in the Super Bowl. And it turns out to be the biggest collapse. And of course there were bigger ones in playoff history, but in the Super Bowl, what a collapse to have where you were winning decisively. And then it was the Patriots' perseverance. And again, I'm a Cowboy fan, so I don't like the Patriots much.
Right.
But I had to admire the fact that team just worked. They were the embodiment of perseverance in the second half.
Yeah. And also, back to the perseverance, along with that, is staying in the game. Yeah. So sometimes people, they quit. And once you quit, let's just say this right now.
Okay.
It's over. Like once you remove yourself from the journey and you quit and you stop,
that's true.
It's over.
That's true.
The only way that you persevere is that you stay in the game. And just when you think it's the most difficult, and just when you think everything is going wrong, if you just hang in there and have some faith, it is remarkable how things turn around. And they can turn around like that.
They can. And you don't want to be, everyone that's paying attention to this, listening to this, watching this, you don't want to be that person who's 85 years old sitting on a porch drinking some Country Time lemonade, because I think that's what I'd be doing.
Love Country Time
and
lemonade,
then be
by the
saying
way.
things like, what would have happened if I'd have just hung in there just one more year
Oh.
before I quit?
Oh, no.
What would have happened if I'd have just made this one more connection?
Oh.
Flew to this one more
Oh, no.
conference where I could meet some people who could actually
No.
who are in alignment with what I'm doing, right?
You don't want
You
that.
don't want regret. You don't want to say, even if I'd have just stuck to it one more time. You don't want that. And you definitely don't want to put on your tombstone, here lies PJ Dunn, a guy who almost made it, but he
Right.
quit feet before he got to the finish line.
Oh. Oh.
You don't want to quit.
Okay, so that is not anyone's story, and that's what we're trying to tell you. Well, we probably need to sort of wrap it up, but what I will say, a lot of what we're talking about here, and some of the steps I just mentioned also, the visualization, the purpose, converting abstract to concrete, the roadmap, the journey, and then achieving, that's in my book, Mastering the Power of Believing. I would really encourage you to take a look at that. And many of you have purchased the book, and I've heard great feedback and everything. In that book, we talk about the journey. And again, if you don't even get that book, The Master Power, get Dr. Seuss's book. Oh, the places will go, because it is just an incredible book. I used to read that to my children. They love it. And then others and all these adults I know who just, it's a standby. It's a great, great book on perseverance.
You got me wanting to buy it now. Well, that's great, and I think everyone should. You should constantly keep part of the refinement process is to keep learning more things as you're in the process. So remember, you don't know everything about the process. You just know that you're in it at that moment.
That's
and
right.
You just know what the circumstances are like. So if you can get books, you should do that. If you can go to websites, Steve's website, my website, YouTube channels, PJ Dunn TV. If you want to see more of this on all the several topics, we're going to put more content out, because
That's right.
this is what we do. You give, and when you give, what you'll see is that everybody wins. And if you think like that, then everything else just kind of seems to fall into place.
Yeah.
So we want to give you this stuff. We wanted to record this in the first place just so you could see what would happen if you take a lawyer and a coach together and sit down and see what are some of the similarities, and then what might be different perspectives we might have on some of the topics that you guys care about.
And thanks for the feedback and the questions that came in, and we're going to encourage that as we go along. And so we really want to thank you in the Boss Negotiator School for tuning in.
That's right.
And want to thank you, PJ, for your vision and working together and putting this together. I have been getting just absolutely incredible feedback. People are being touched by this, and my goal was to try to bring some value in a way that will be a benefit to those watching.
That's right. And if it's palpable, then you'll do it. So as I kind of said the other week, you will do what you're convinced of.
Yeah.
So if you're convinced that you're here on this earth to do something specific with the unique talents that you've been given, then it's up to you to hone them and own them, and then just go show the world who you are. Don't be unabashed about that. The world is still waiting to see who the next Martin Luther Kings are, who are going to be the next, Albert Einsteins. The world is still waiting. We're not done. Those are dead people, but there are people alive today still taking breaths.
You are still in the game.
That's right. Still in the game, because we didn't quit. So there it is. Don't quit. Never, never, never give up, as Churchill said, right?
Yeah. So, hey, I really do appreciate it. And so thank you for joining. We're going to close out here. I'll probably be back maybe later this evening. And again, if you have an opportunity to see this later, because some of you can't watch it in the middle of the day, and I did encourage some to sneak around at their place of employment. But then again, I'm thinking if somebody did this around here, I'd be a little upset. Or maybe, I don't know. If they're watching me, it might be okay. But anyway, so if you do watch this later, please send us a note. PJ Dunn TV on YouTube, boldcreationshc.com, the website, Mastering the Power of Believing, the book.
We're on LinkedIn. So you can find us on LinkedIn. Look up our names on LinkedIn, Instagram, and also, Facebook.
Yeah. And soon having a podcast as well on SoundCloud. And so you can find it there as well.
The podcast is coming.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Y'all have a great day.
All right.